Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to share 12 lessons that we have learned in 12 years of horse ownership. So we reached 12 years of horse ownership 2 months ago in September, and we thought it would be cool. There's definitely more things in this obviously that we've learned, but we thought we would do 12 lessons since it's been 12 years.
Alright, let's get started. So the first one is the number one key to healthy horses is understanding their design and working with and supporting the design.
Yeah, that's foundational. That's one of the we've learned that that's the absolute key to being able to set our horses up to thrive, having healthy, happy horses, and it's the foundation of everything we do. So whatever we're doing, we want to make sure that it works with and supports their design. And if it doesn't, then we're not going to do it.
And we didn't even really completely realize, but ever since the beginning of owning horses, we were unknowingly kind of doing that. And we always wanted to do the very best we could for our mare at the time, because we had one horse at the time. And we just...
That's been the process.
Yeah, over the 12 years. And now what we say is that what we do is we run everything through the lens of, does this work with and support the design of the horse, or does it not?
Yep.
And it's really simple as that.
That's right.
All right, so let's move on. Number 2 is we like doing everything ourselves. And we learned that pretty quickly on. We've always been more independently minded. And when we became a horse owner, we only had a couple of different farriers come out to trim our mare's hooves over, how long was it?
I think we started doing it ourselves at the very end of 2013. So the very start of the second year of horse ownership, we stopped having someone else trim our horses' hooves, and we started doing it ourselves.
And that is the only professional people, equine professionals, that we ever had come out. And we just realized that, one, they weren't doing a very good job.
And it was just frustrating and like
just frustrating.
Stressful. You know, it wasn't very fun dealing with someone coming out to do something with your horse, and so we just didn't like it. And yeah, you didn't do a good job. The second farrier we had, we finally had to ask him to trim her heels because he was leaving them, and it was like, literally, it was grown in such a way that it was like hooking over. The hoof wall of the heel was like hooked over, and it was just not right. Yeah. So that was the last time we had him trim her, I'm pretty sure, because we wanted to get that better before we took it on to make it a little easier for us.
Yeah.
But
because even with our inexperienced eyes, you know, how old were we at the time?
11 and like 13.
Yeah, we never trimmed horses before, but we knew just from looking at it, we're like, this isn't right.
Yeah. And then the only other professional that we've gone to was a vet. One time we went to him for getting a fecal egg count done, and we never did it. We've never done that again. It was frustrating. The thing is that, so I had to ask them for information about the test results. They weren't even telling me. Sarah wasn't with us whenever we picked up the results, and they weren't even like giving me the information about what they found and everything. They were just like giving me the ivermectin and being like, you know, give them this. And so I had to ask them. They had to come back out because I asked to tell me like, well, what does she have? What was it? And I don't even think it was really very much, but they still recommended the chemical dewormer, and we ended up giving it to her, unfortunately, but that's a different point. But yeah, we've never gone to a vet since then.
Yeah, and we like to be informed. We like to know things. We don't want to just have someone tell us what to do and just listen to them because they're quote-unquote professional, because professionals can also be wrong.
Very.
Yeah. So, let's see. And then, you know, right along with that, you know, we learned how to train our horse ourselves. Before we even became our owners, we started learning about that, and that you can train your horse yourself. You don't have to go to a professional.
Yep.
So we do everything ourselves. The only outsourcing is, you know, we have to have hay delivered. You know, we'd love to grow our own hay someday, but we don't do that. But like, you know,
but going to professionals, we don't do that.
Yeah.
So not that we don't learn. It's not that we haven't learned from professionals, but we're learning and doing it ourselves, and we're not doing it from in-person learning. We're just like finding someone online and learning from that. And I was wanting to mention on the training side, actually, the only reason that we even own our horse is because we learned how to train horses before we became horse owners, because she was crazy, and which that's a whole story. We can't do that in this video. We'll have to do that in another video. But
so we're very independently minded, and we like doing everything ourselves, and so we do everything ourselves. All right, and then number 3 is horses always need a herd mate, and we learned that again pretty early on, you know, with our mare, and you know, she was very stressed out if she didn't have a herd mate with her.
Yeah, because we tried locking her up in an area by herself, because it's our own horse, and we're just gonna, you know, have her up in a pen, and
which I guess we got to preface a little bit, like, you know.
Yeah, that might not make sense.
we lived on a 40-acre rented horse ranch, and we rented the house, and there was a lot of horses out there. The owners kept a lot of horses out there, and
that's where all of our horses came from.
Yeah, so it's sort of kind of like a boarding situation, but not really, because it was just very different.
That's also a whole story in itself.
There was a lot of horses out there, so sometimes she would have a herd mate in there with her, and then sometimes she wouldn't.
But at the very beginning, we did try just having her in her own pen because it's our horse, and just wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So, but we quickly realized it didn't take that long that she wasn't happy and it wasn't good for her health, and she got thin, and that I think was definitely a contributing factor because she was stressed.
Yeah, she would pace up and down the fence at times. She was just always on much higher alert, I would say, in that time also as well, and it was just very obvious, and we were very much so. We wanted to learn from our horse, and she really taught us a lot just from observation and experience with owning her.
A lot of what we've learned has been through the observation. It's like you can learn the information and you might try something, but what really shows you whether it works is the real world experience of how does the horse do, what does it do for the horse.
So all right, moving on.
I think the next one kind of goes with this.
Number 4 is horses always need free choice forage.
Yeah, because well, this is what I was gonna say is that when we had her alone, that was definitely part of it. But the other thing was we didn't realize about free choice forage yet. We were trying. We followed the rule. Yeah, the whole feed 2% of their body weight. You weigh the hay out. You give it to them. And so we tried that, and it was a high quality hay too. It was Stanley hay. It was Timothy hay from Stanley Hay Company, and very expensive. Yeah. And it didn't work. She didn't do well. She didn't maintain weight. So those two things, I don't think they were. They went hand in hand as to why she didn't do well.
I remember that we would give her, her amount in the evening and come out in the morning and be completely gone. And you never want your horse to be completely out of hay.
Yeah.
And
they should always have free choice forage. And then the other thing we learned, and this has been something that again was over the span of being horse owners, we ended up getting on the hay net bandwagon for a while. We stopped. I don't know how long it's been now.
Yeah. And I don't know, when was it that we started? Was it a couple years after owning her?
No, we got. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I forgot about that.
We got him right away.
No, we didn't get him right away. It was probably a few years after, but we tried that and we just realized that it wasn't natural at all. It was another form of restricting forage and making it more difficult for them to eat it, which is never a good thing. That's just adding stress to the horse and making sure they can't eat as much as they need, which is not good. So we stopped doing that, I guess probably, has it been over a year ago? I'm not sure how long it's been now, but we have stopped doing that, and we don't do that.
Because the thing is, we're very big advocates of reducing stress on our horses as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's key to having healthy horses.
You might be like, oh, well, my horse has free choice access to forage. They have it 24/7, and that's great. But if you are restricting their access to the free choice forage by putting it in nets or awkward, weird feeders,
any kind of slow
feeder, anything other than
loose,
putting it loose out or in like a bin feeder that's there's no, it's just a feeder to put the hay in.
Yeah.
It's not anything that restricts them or slows them down. Yeah. It just causes stress on the horse. And then also with any kind of slow feeder, if you'll observe the horse, one of the things that I dawned on me actually recently was that they do this very repetitive head motion of kind of like bopping their head back and forth.
Because they're trying to get the hay out, so they just keep doing this motion like that.
And it just makes you wonder, it's like, is that really
can't be good for them?
They don't mimic that same head motion when they're grazing in that same way.
And also, there's always the risk too with slow feeders of any kind that they're going to damage their teeth and their gums, which obviously we don't want. And so there's multiple issues with that, and that's also one we can totally need to just do a whole video on because we can go into it more.
It's like, we didn't notice anything with our horses
except they were frustrated.
Except we didn't notice any teeth damage, that kind of thing. We did it without the knots and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, our hay nets did not have knots
there. And it's just something we don't want to continue to risk. And again, reducing stress as much as possible.
And one of the things in particular, because we thought they seemed really relaxed at times and they enjoyed it. And I don't know if that they never enjoyed it, but if that's as a whole, that's how their hay is at all times. But one of the things that was obviously a sign of frustration was when we put a new bale out. Yeah. Pete would come over and he would full mouth grab the hay in the net. With the net, he would grab the net and he would just yank on it like crazy. Mm-hmm. He never does that when the hay is loose. Yeah. And it was just like, okay, obviously he's not happy about this. And and now we just do the loose hay. And I'm telling you, if you go out there and watch them eating, they will take very small bites. Mm-hmm. So this idea that you need to slow them down, the only reason that horses are going to gorge themselves and eat really fast and obsessive is because they don't know if it's going to stay. They're not used to having the loose free choice hay. So initially, it can take them some time to adjust to that, and you might think they're eating too much, but just let them be, and they'll regulate out when they realize it's not going to leave, and they're still going to have it. So.
Yep. So we don't use nets anymore.
Nope.
And let's see here. Also, the other thing too is we feed round bales, and it's just so nice to have this large, humongous amount of hay in one spot, and the horses can, sleep in it. They got a nice cozy bed, especially in the wintertime. They love it. And just not being so paranoid about if there's some quote unquote waste. And
there was waste at the hay nets anyway. The difference was that it was kept in this like compact like pancake that you then had to dump out of the round bale net, but there was always waste.
Which that was very frustrating because you had to.
Very annoying.
It was a very heavy amount of hay still left on the bottom. You had to, pull the net off of.
And trying to gauge when you need to put out the new hay too is more difficult because you're like.
And now what we do is we put the hay out before they run out, or before we feel like it's getting too close. Not that there hasn't been times where we're like, oh, that might have been too close. But the way we know is if we put the hay out and they're not like running over and they're like, oh, they're obviously hungry. A lot of times they just kind of meander over. They're like, oh, hay.
Cool.
But they're not like starving. So we're like, oh, good. We didn't wait too long this time.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
I think that's enough on hay nets
for
this video.
For a long time. And number 5 is chemical dewormers are terrible.
Yeah.
We used chemical dewormers for the first
2 years, I think.
Yeah, around that time with owning our mare, and she never liked them. She always hated them. We hated giving it to her because they just. Well,
and we knew that there was like all these warnings on them, and it was like not safe really.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting too is we have written down we had given her a chemical dewormer. It was November 1st, and the same month she got pigeon fever, and then like a couple of months later she got pigeon fever again, and then there was another time.
Correlation there.
Absolutely correlated, and then there was another time that and I don't know when this was correlated to, but early on, that it's like she got pigeon fever again, but it was literally on the top of her tail head. Makes no sense, but that's what it was like. And we've never had that happen again. And the thing we stopped doing, the main thing, is the chemical dewormers. And the last time we did a chemical dewormer was actually the time that we did the fecal egg count, and they gave us the ivermectin to give her. And after that, we didn't do it anymore, and we just wanted to figure out something else. And so we do a natural dewormer now, which is called diatomaceous earth. It's not actually technically a dewormer, like it's not like that. It's just diatomaceous earth, but it deworms. So
and detoxes and
a
lot of
provides
really
nutrients.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things we've also realized over the years on the same line is that it's not just that we give them DE. It's all the things we don't do, and it's all the things we do. So it's like basically the healthier the horse, the less likely the parasites are going to be a problem. So it's the whole picture, but that is the specific thing we do for parasites, that directly addresses that.
And we've been using diatomaceous earth for, what, is it 9 years?
Something like that, yeah.
So
and
we're very happy
that's it.
With that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll do a video on that.
Probably almost all of these we can do a video on its own.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Number 6, processed pre-made feed is bad for horses.
We don't do any of those. We actually, we did try one time. It was, we had the impression that, this is this great feed, super good feed, such a high quality food, and it's going to do so much good for our horses. Our horse, at the time we only had one, and so we tried it. It didn't work. It didn't really help anything.
They did good marketing, and we bought into it. And we didn't even feed it to her for that long, I don't think.
No.
And it was just, the more you learn and understand about how horses are designed, it's like,
why would we do that?
Pre-made sugary feeds just don't work with the design of the horse. Put your horse at more of a risk of, ulcers and colic, and actually can inhibit your horse from being healthy and having, a healthy weight and all of that.
Yeah, because it's inflammation and
it's an unnecessary expense. And again, it's the whole picture. And so when we're feeding our horses sugary grains, that's not going to promote a healthy
and horse. I don't know that the one we were doing probably wasn't even all the sugary, because I think it was a better one. It was Prime Glow, is that what it was called? Yeah. But still, it didn't have the results that we were hoping for, and it just wasn't. It's like not only is it not healthy, but then it's also not necessary.
Yeah. And now we've stuck to a forage only diet for many, many, many years now, and we won't ever feed pre-made sugary feeds again.
If it's processed like that, it's just not as healthy.
Forage is best.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 7.
If something is branded for horses, it will be much more expensive purely for that reason. And
goes
that
right
is
along
true
with the last fact.
100%. If you buy anything that's labeled for horses, it's going to be way more expensive.
And that's the only reason why. It's not because it's better. Like, for example, we do Redmond salt, but we do not get it from the Redmond Equine brand. We do the Redmond Agriculture. We get a 50-pound bag of the, I think it's the 10 fine. It's just their straight salt, nothing added. And it's 50 pounds, and it was like under $20. I can't remember what it was exactly now, but it was, pretty sure it's under $20, and it lasts us a very long time. But you get that from Redmond Equine. I mean, the price is just so much more for no good reason. It's literally the same thing. Because as long as we get the same, just the pure salt, straight salt, nothing else added. The only thing we have done is we have gotten the Redmond Equine whole rock on a rope. But even that, you can get a, like the Hunter brand, a big old rock of the Redmond rock, and it's still way less expensive. But it lasts a long time, so it's not as big of a deal to us to get it on the Equine brand for the rock, whole rock. But yeah, so that's the only thing I think that we have that's actually branded for horses that we are using as far as like feed. Everything else is just like we do apple cider vinegar. It's not specific for horses. Dietary syrup, not specifically for horses. So, yep, it's pretty ridiculous. It's a whole marketing thing.
It is. All right, number 8. Horses always do better without bits. We started out with riding in bits, and we found very quickly. Was it very quickly? But
I think it was pretty quickly
on.
I mean, I think we tried it for a while, but
started way better with just a halter. And she was more, more attentive, and she didn't have
learn
this
better
metal bit in her mouth. And over the years, we've learned also that bits can interfere with her teeth,
can literally cause teeth abnormalities.
Yeah,
so.
and
their mouths are sensitive.
And we've ridden a good number of horses, and they always did better without bits. And even I trained a few different horses for a couple different ladies, and they rode their horses with bits, and I would ride their horses with halters mostly, and it's like they just did so much better without the bits. And it was just like,
it wasn't because they were used to it. Their owners rode them in bits, but they still did so much better when we just didn't ride them in the bits. And it makes total sense because you're talking about this hard, uncomfortable, painful piece of metal in their mouth, distracting them, causing them pain, right on the sensitive bars of their mouth where there's just a light covering of skin over the bone. I mean, it's terrible. It just doesn't even make any sense why it would be something that would be a good thing to do. So we have not ridden in bits in many years, and that's just one of the things we do not do.
Yeah, and we just use a rope halter. Yep, that's it.
And we have a piece of rope. I have a 12-foot piece of lead rope that we attach underneath. So no bits.
Alrighty, and then number 9. You don't need a lot of stuff.
No, you don't.
We sort of bought into that a little bit in the early days, but we still didn't have as much stuff, I feel like, as other people did. But we bought what are those called? Boots. What do you call them?
Oh yeah, sport boots for horses.
And
we tried 2 different brands, and the Velcro would wear out so fast, and they wouldn't even stay up on the back legs. Tried polo wraps, they also wouldn't stay up on the back legs.
Yeah.
And
the more you learn over time, it's like, oh, they're really not that necessary, and they could cause more.
They cause heat
in the legs, and
which is potentially damaging. And then also, this is kind of my own thoughts. I don't know if this is legit, but it makes sense to me. Is that I think boots are kind of like with humans. If you start wearing like an ankle brace, that it's not actually a good idea because it's going to result in a weakened ankle because you have that support. And so it's like it ends up being counterintuitive. So I think it could be the same with horses. Like supporting the leg could actually make it weaker because just like with a brace for human. So yeah, we don't use leg gear. I don't know if I'm 100% against it in every situation, but if I was looking into it, I would be more so wanting to find something that's very ventilated, lots of airflow able to get through, and I'd probably only be looking for something that's just for protection, so not like something that goes around the fetlock. Would be more like English style boots, I think, that are like the tendon boots and stuff like that, or splint boots, maybe something like that. But I really don't know that I'd ever would use anything
I don't
anymore.
see us ever using it anymore. Then another thing is, we used to have a lot of different brushes, which I'm not like completely against.
No.
I'm not like against brushes. We just found that we just really didn't need all of that. And not that it's not like fun to have brushes and
No,
stuff.
yeah.
We're not against it in any way. It's just that
Our go-to is the strip hair gentle groomer, a wet brush, and then just a good hoof pick and a wire brush. We use a hoof pick that doesn't have a brush on it. It's much higher quality. It's a Noble Equine. Is that what they're called now? I think. Used to be Noble Outfitters. But yeah, I mean, I do think like a bristle brush can be fun, but it's not. They get really, really dirty really fast, and it's not like you need to have those things, but they definitely can be fun just to have grooming tools to use. But also just tack. Like we do not have a lot of tack. Or just equipment in general. We just don't. You don't need a whole lot.
There's so much stuff you could buy if you go to a tack store or a farm store in the horse section, and
really
you just really don't need a whole lot of stuff.
Yep.
Number 10. Not all barefoot trims are created equal.
This is a big one. So we've never had our horses shod. That's never something we did, but
never made sense.
No, but also when we took on trimming their hooves ourselves, it was of course barefoot, but we've learned over the years that there are definitely some problems in the barefoot world. So for one thing, sometimes the trim is basically this, just like a shoeing trim, which is extremely flat, and it's just done on a barefoot hoof, and that's not going to produce a healthy, well-developed hoof. And so over the years, we have learned that just because it's called barefoot does not mean it's healthy. So now we have learned some the principles we follow is David Landreville. He is an amazing barefoot trimmer. Some very unique differences to the way that he trims. And our mare, we've actually dealt with, she's had intermittent lameness at times throughout the time that we've owned her, and then it got a lot worse in the last few years. And so then we found or started implementing David Landreville's trimming method, and it's made a huge difference. And I can't really get into explaining what all the differences are, but definitely recommend checking him out and learning from him. But yeah, it's really important that the way you trim. Barefoot is always best, of course, it's always best, but even with that, the way you trim barefoot is really important for whether or not your horse's hooves are really going to be able to be healthy, and then the whole body, because the hooves and the body are all connected, so you want them to be really healthy.
And our mare, she's had intermittent lameness issues because she had an injury before we owned her.
Yeah, right above her
one
hoof.
of her heel bulbs. That's always caused it's caused her hooves to become distorted because she didn't use them properly after she did get the injury, and it was before we owned her.
Yeah. So it's still work in progress with that, but we're definitely making progress.
Yep. All right.
Number 11.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Less is more.
Kind of goes with the other part.
Simple. Humans overcomplicate everything.
Yep.
And truly, less is more. Keep things super simple with horses, and
that's literally what we've done throughout the years. Is it seems like kind of like everything we do is just further simplification. I mean, not using hay nets is further simplifying. So that's another thing. It's annoying putting this big net on these big bales, and so that's just another simplification step. But it's better for the horse, and so that's been kind of what we've done throughout the years is just further simplifying of things, and being online and seeing in the horse world and people trying to figure things out, and it's just really frustrating and complicated because people make horses so complicated, but they really don't have to be. So keep things simple.
Yep. All right, last one, number 12.
Last but not least,
horses are the easiest animals that we have ever owned. That doesn't mean that there's never been any obstacles we've had to overcome or figure things out, but we've owned dogs, chickens, fish, cats, and horses have been by far the easiest, the simplest.
Simplest, yeah. I mean, it's not but yeah, I think the most difficult thing is the hoof trimming. But even that is not that bad for us, especially whenever you stay on top of it and you don't let them get really long and overgrown, so there's not as much to trim then. But yeah. It's pretty crazy. That's a very stark difference, I think, than what you would find in the horse world. But it's because we don't do things that the normal way of horses. We just don't do it that way.
Because the thing is, it's not because of luck that we've been horse owners for 12 years, and there's never been an emergency outside of our ability to handle. We've never needed to have a vet come out. We've never actually even needed a vet. And we don't run into those common problems that people have all the time. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, and there's been things that have come up here and there and things we've had to figure out, but with the fact that we're, independently minded, we like being self-reliant, we figure things out ourselves. We do research, we learn. We
still do. I mean, we're still learning and figuring things out, and
We have by no means arrived, but we have definitely settled in, I would say, to kind of the way we do things.
The foundational things that will not change.
Yeah, like horses, they need free choice forage, water, salt.
Being out in the open on a pasture, barefoot hooves, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it is pretty interesting. And like Sarah's saying, it's not luck, and it's not unique to us. Like you can absolutely have the same with horses. And so yeah, it's definitely not luck, and it's just, I don't know. People just overcomplicate things so much, and we've just found that you don't have to do that. So, but yeah, that is the 12 lessons we've learned in 12 years as horse owners, and we hope you found this interesting.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, so be sure and comment down below.
Yeah.
Let us know what you saw of the video, and
or if you want, you can also send us an email, because if you don't like commenting on videos, totally get it. You can send us an email. We'll have that in our description. But yeah, we would love to hear from you, and we look forward to making more videos in the future.
Yeah, so we'll talk to you in the next one.
See you later.
Bye.